Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunam Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Ram Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bali Rajakacharya Astatar Satashi Srimad Savangre Shila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. All glories to the Son of the devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. In here somewhere. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, the Nara Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srimad Bhagavatam's 4th canto, chapter 27, attack by Chandabega on the city of Puranjana. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Text number 26, yeah? Ato bhajasvamam bhadra Vajantim me dayam kuru Etavan paurusho dharmo Jadarthan anukampate Ato bhajasvamam bhadra Vajantim me dayam kuru Etavan paurusho dharma Jadarthan anukampate Ato bhajasvamam bhadra Vajantim me dayam kuru Etavan paurusho dharmo Jadarthan anukampate
Ato Bhajasva Mam Bhadra Ajanti Me Dayam Kuru Etavan Purusho Dharma Yad Artan Anukampate
Ato Bhajasva Mambhadra Bhajanti Me Dayam Kuru Davan Parusho Dharmo Yat Artan Kampate
Ato Bhagavata Mantra,
Ato Bhajasva Mambhadra
Bhajanti Jayam Guru,
Bhajanti Me Dayam Kuru
Itavan Parashodharma,
Etavam Purusho Dharma
Yadartha Narukampate,
Yadartha Anukampate
Bhajasva Mambhadra
Tato Bhajasva Mambhadra Bhajanti Me Dayam Kuru Etavam Purusho Dharma Yadartha Anukampate.
Word meanings. Ato, therefore. Bhajasva, accept. Mam, me. Bhadra, O gentle one. Bhajantim, willing to serve. Me, to me. Dayam, mercy. Kuru, do. Etavan, such a measure. Paurushaha, for any gentleman. Dharma, religious principle. Yet that artan, to the distressed. Anukampate, is compassionate. Kalakanya continued, O gentle one, I am now present before you to serve you. Please accept me and thus show me mercy. It is a gentleman's greatest duty to be compassionate upon a person who is distressed. Report. Yavanaraj, the king of the Yavanas, could also refuse to accept Kalakanya, daughter of time. But he considered the request due to the order of Narada Muni. Thus he accepted Kalakanya in a different way. In other words, the injunctions of Narada Muni, or the path of devotional service, can be accepted by anyone within the three worlds, and certainly by the king of the Yavanas. Lord Chaitanya himself requested everyone to preach the cult of Bhakti Yoga all over the world, in every village and town. Preachers in the Krishna consciousness movement have actually experienced that even the Yavanas and Malechas have taken to spiritual life on the strength of Narada Muni's Pancharatrika Vidhi. When mankind follows the disciplic succession as recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone throughout the world will benefit. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumuditham Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamadam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kalakanya continued, O gentle one, I am now present before you to serve you. Please accept me and thus show me mercy. It is a gentleman's greatest duty to be compassionate upon a person who is distressed. A couple of points that I wanted to focus on. First, towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada talks about Narada Muni's Pancharatrika Vidhi. There's an interesting little article that was on ISKCON Desire Tree. How Pancharatrika Vidhi and Bhagavat Vidhi fit together. Always interesting. Subject. This is by Damodar Priya Devidasi. Don't know who she is, but there are two tracks, vidhis, required to walk safely on the spiritual path, as Srila Prabhupada often mentioned. In the same way as the physical train needs two parallel tracks, also the train of bhakti needs two tracks. One is the Bhagavat Vidhi, or the path of Shravanam and Kirtana, also known as Rag Marg, and the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or the path of Archan, also known as Vidhi Marg. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West to teach Krishna consciousness, he first introduced the religion of the sage, chanting Hare Krishna, in order to create a taste in the young devotees for hearing and chanting. Only after some time, he started to introduce the process of archanam, or deity worship. He explained to his students that archanam is a necessary part of devotional service. And here's a couple excerpts from Prabhupada's Bhagavatam purports regarding this. The Pancharatrika system acts on the Shudra class of men, says supposedly the population of the Kali Yuga, and it is the prescribed purificatory process suitable to the age and time. Such a purificatory process is allowed only for spiritual upliftment and not for any other purpose. Spiritual upliftment is never conditioned by higher or lower parentage. Well, wait a minute, it's Kali Yuga. I thought the Yuga Dharma was Sankirtan. What's going on? And Jiva Goswami clarifies in his Bhakti Sandarbha why the deity worship is important, even though Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. There's another quote from Prabhupada's Bhagavatam purport. The Archan Marga, or the devotional path prescribed in the Pancharatra system of devotional service for worshiping the deity in the temple, makes the devotee think constantly of the Lord. That is samadhi, or trance. One who practices in this way cannot deviate from the service of the Lord, and that makes him perfect in the mission of human life. So this is now from Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, how these two paths, these two parallel train tracks, how they fit together. Jiva Goswami, it is Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra or other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, one can achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection. Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation. And in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in deity worship. And this is especially referring to Brahminical initiation. And then Rupa Goswami, the Nectar of Instruction, he said that you offer your respect within the mind, someone who chants Hare Krishna, but you bow down physically and offer obeisances to one who has taken initiation and is engaged in worshiping the deity. Although the deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulations for deity worship. Srila Prabhupada, okay, this is, she's talking about Prabhupada's comments to this quote of Srila Jiva Goswami. In other words, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it does not depend on official initiation. But if one is initiated and engages in Pancharatrika Vidhi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon, and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. The more one is freed from material identification, the more one can realize that the spirit soul is qualitatively as good as the supreme soul. At such a time, when one is situated on the absolute platform, one can understand that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. Then Prabhupada, and there's a reference from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Prabhupada says that the deity worship is always accompanied by kirtan, which is our main emphasis on Shravanam Kirtanam. But the deity worship, prior to beginning the deity worship and during the deity worship and after the deity worship, so many mantras are being chanted. So there's kirtan going on throughout the whole process of deity worship. Now here's a little interesting little nugget. Now let us have a short look on the meaning of the word Pancharatra. Pancha means five, and it's 5 steps constituting it. Pancha means 5, and Ratra means nights. It is said that once 2 demons, Madhu and Kaitava, stole all the Vedic knowledge from Lord Brahma, so that Lord Narayan had to teach it to Brahma again. He did so within 5 nights only. There are 108 Pancharatras, so like a division of the Vedas, of which the Narada Pancharatra is one. It is divided into 5 parts, also known as Panchanga Puja, or the worship according to 5 steps. These are, and they are as follows. These are the 5 aspects of Pancharatrika. Abhigamana, or preliminary activities, such as waking early in the morning, paying obeisances to one's spiritual master, cleansing one's body, putting on fresh cloth, performing achman, putting on tilak, reciting Gayatri mantras, etc. 2, upadanam, or collecting the required items for worship. 3, yoga, or linking one's mind with the Supreme Lord by reciting Buddha Shuddhi prayers, which help one to understand one's true identity as an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Ijja, or the actual worship of the Lord with 16 upacharas. Svadhyaya, or the personal meditation or cultivation of devotional service, such as Shravanam and Kirtanam. We can see from that Bhagavat Vidhi is the 5th step of the Pancharatrika system. The Pancharatra system is a perfect spiritual lifestyle meant to assist people in Kali Yuga to calm down their agitated minds and to purify their consciousness. In this way, they are uplifted on the platform of sattva gun, from where a concentrated and substantial nam japa can be practiced. Jai. Damodar Priya Devi Dasi ki. Wherever you are. So, and the other aspect that kind of self-explanatory, I can't really elaborate too much on that. I was thinking how you see that devotees that I've never been a real, it's been a weakness in my devotional life, you know, the deity worship, you know, and I do have my handicaps with my feet, and it makes it a little hard for me to do the deity worship, but I see that devotees that are very attached to deity worship, you can really see their transformation, you know, their purification, and the sattva gun that is brought about. And I remember when I was in Mayapur, just to watch Janani Vas, Pankajambari was still alive at the time, but just to watch them just walk, it was almost like it was just kind of cool. Just like they just sort of like glided through, you know, like they were. And I remember Bhavananda Prabhu was talking about once Prabhupada, you know, he was an important manager back in the day with Jai Patak Maharaj in Mayapur. And of course, you know, he was having a lot of important meetings with Prabhupada regarding the development of Mayapur. And Bhavananda was explaining that, you know, to his eyes, you know, Janani Vas and Pancha, yeah, they were nice devotees, but they weren't anything special. They were just, you know, doing their thing and doing their service. And one day, Bhavananda was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada suddenly just started glorifying Janani Vas and Pancha. You know, he went on for like a half an hour, like they're so steady, they're so dedicated. And Bhavananda was like, why is Prabhupada going on and on about, you know? So, you know, we always, you know, we glorify, rightfully so, you know, the frontline Sankirtan soldiers going out, you know, facing the Kali Yuga head on. But, you know, we don't want to minimize, you know, the absolute nature of devotional service. And anyone who is dedicated, you know, to their service. I remember this pujari in Mayapur. I don't know his name. Do you know his name? That who does Mangal Artik every day?
We got that. The one who does Mangal Artik every day since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I mean, he's like this old, you know, very, you know, kind of elderly body. He's kind of hunched over, and he's like, and I thought, wow, like, what dedication, you know, what dedication. And so anyways, just you see the power. And I think Lolita too, when you got into deity worship, remember, I could see, you know, it was really giving you a lot of inspiration, you know, and, or like Tulsi, like Damodar Prabhu and his dedication to Tulsi. Like you see when somebody takes up a service with real, you know, dedication, they put their heart into it, you really see, you know, how they advance very substantially. And it doesn't, you know, it could be anything. You could be a gardener, you know, a pot washer, you know, like Krishna's, he makes no distinction. Prabhupada one time he said, you know, the pujari dressing the deity and the mopper on the floor, it's the same. It's absolute. Balaram's expanded as the temple floor. The whole dham, it's a whole dham. It's all deity worship. You know, when we're in the right consciousness, of course, we need to see the puja, the arati to reinforce that. But, you know, throughout the day, it's like I'm doing my deity service. You know, whatever I'm doing, I'm going out to distribute books. I'm going out to whatever, do purchasing. I'm doing yard work, whatever. It's all deity worship. And Krishna is the center of our lives. And I remember Ramnath Maharaj was talking about the austerities of New Vrindavan back in the day. And I did not have the good fortune to ever go to New Vrindavan back in those early days, but I can't remember who it was. They were saying, they had no running water, and they had to take bath. There was some muddy pond or something, and it was so cold in the winter, they had to break the ice to take their morning bath. But Rananath Maharaj was just saying, but when the deity curtains would open, Radha, Vrindavan, and Chandra, they were just, they were performing all this austerity. And I think it was Surabhi, these Vrindavan, the 50th anniversary of opening Krishna Bhavana Mandir, devotees were talking about different pastimes. And I think it was Surabhi, the architect, in the early days, and it was very austere. But Surabhi, he had cancer of some sort, right? He passed away, but he was recounting the austerities of being in Vrindavan at the time. And he said, it was very, very difficult, but it was the best time of my life. Like the reciprocation that the devotee, and that's the same thing what Radhanath Maharaj is talking about, New Vrindavan, the austerities were tremendous, but Krishna's responding, that the devotees are embracing, these to willfully or to voluntarily accept, some austerity for the pleasure of the Lord. And so enough about that. Not enough, but we can talk unlimitedly about that. But I wanted to segue into this. In the purport, Prabhupada said that the king of the Yavanas, what does he say here? The path of devotional service can be accepted by anyone within 3 worlds, and certainly by the king of the Yavanas. Lord Chaitanya himself requested everyone to preach the cult of Bhakti Yoga all over the world, in every town and village. And then Prabhupada mentions how, it's interesting, preachers in the Krishna consciousness movement have actually experienced that even the Yavanas and Malechas have taken to spiritual life. I mean, I used to think sometimes, when we come before the deities, here's the Supreme Lord, and here we are, the Kali Yuga, the misfits from the island of the misfit toys, we're all gawking at the Lord, and sometimes we're half awake, and it was almost, we could write a book about the comedic affairs of devotees falling asleep. And this is another one from my album Greatest Hits. There was this devotee in San Diego. His name was Valmiki. Really nice devotee. I don't know where he is these days, but he had quite a significant tendency to fall asleep. Sometimes he'd be walking around Tulsi during japa, he would run into the wall. But there was this one time, it was during Tulsi Puja, and the Pujari, the Tulsi Pujari, had offered the ghee lamp, so Valmiki went to accept the ghee lamp and then bring it over to Prabhupada. And as he was walking over to Prabhupada, I could see it was kind of like, he turns and he offered it to Prabhupada, and as he was walking, I happened to be leading the kirtan at the time, as he was walking, his arm was gradually drooping, and then the ghee lamp fell off. The ghee lamp fell on the ground, and it was like, I could see it in real time. It was like in slow motion. He's walking, the ghee lamp is falling, the wick falls. He stepped right on the ghee lamp, the flaming ghee lamp, and suddenly he went, "Ugh!" He had this look on his face. And everybody, we just started crying. I couldn't sing anymore. It was still hilarious. So anyways, the Malechas and Yav, we are, a comedic bunch, taking up the process of devotional service. And anyways, I think Krishna must find it quite humorous to see us in our fallen condition, but sincerely, trying to do the best we can. So anyways, Lord Chaitanya's, this verse that Prabhupada's paraphrasing, Lord Chaitanya himself requested everyone to preach the cult of Bhakti Yoga all over the world, in every town and village. This is from the a section, the Lord's Tour of South India, there's a Brahmana named Kurma. So there's just a short little few verses. In one village, there was a Vedic Brahmin named Kurma. He invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home with great respect and devotion. This Brahmana brought Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, washed his lotus feet, and with his family members drank that water. That Kurma Brahmin, with great affection and respect, made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat all kinds of food. After that, the remnants were shared by all the members of the family. The Brahmana then began to pray, "Oh my Lord, your lotus feet are meditated upon by Lord Brahma, and these very lotus feet have come into my home. My dear Lord, there's no limit to my great fortune. It cannot be described. Today, my family, birth, and riches have all been glorified." The Brahmin begged Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My dear Lord, kindly show me favor and let me go with you. I can no longer tolerate the waves of misery caused by materialistic life." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Don't speak like that again. Better to remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always. Instruct everyone to follow the order." This is the verse that Prabhupada was paraphrasing. Very famous verse. "Yari deka tari kaha Krishna upadesh, amara agyaya guru hana tara edesh." Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised the Brahmin Kurma, "If you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these relative principles, we will again meet here, or rather, you will never lose my company." So Hamsaduta was, this was another Prabhupada memory. I said Prabhupada was speaking, and I can't remember where they were. Prabhupada said, "So we are saying all the women should be married. And we are telling the men, don't get married." And Prabhupada said, "This is a contradiction in our philosophy." And he just left it at that. It was like, what are you going to do? You know, but anyways, what I thought about was how is, you know, every town and village, how is this practically going to take place? And when you think of Vrindavan, you know, 5,000 temples, spiritual place. But the idea is that, you know, the temple, of course, is this very special environment, especially with regular deity worship, and especially a high standard of deity worship. You really feel Krishna's presence. But the idea is that it's really a training ground for the most part. Most people are not going to live in an ashram. You know, it gets some foundational training. Most people are going to enter Grihastha ashram and work out as this whole section, you know, not completely, but there's a real strong emphasis on the entanglement of illicit sex, you know, the whole Paranjana thing, you know, and chasing after the, what's the wife's name? Paranjani. So, you know, Prabhupada was speaking, you know, we got to deal with the problem, you know, but deal with it in a religious way. You know, get married and put Krishna in the center of your home. Make your home a temple. Invite people to your home. You know, what we do here at the temple, we have deity worship, we have kirtan, we have Bhagavat Katha. You do the same thing at home. You invite friends over, you cook prasad, you have a little kirtan, you have some Katha. This is practical. How is Krishna consciousness going to spread all over the world? It's not that people are going to be living in ashrams. It's like that. I watched that documentary on Mount Athos. Athos. It's on the Greek peninsula, and for the last 2,000 years, I think, it's just been monks, and they got all these monasteries. Yeah, and special person, to be able to do that. But that's, I think they said there's actually 2,000. No, can't remember how many monks. Quite a few living there. But that's just 0.000000111% of the population is going to be able to do that. So, but you need that, to have that example. But Prabhupada emphasized so much, especially the sannyasi godbrothers of Prabhupada who went to Europe and were not that successful. They had some success, but they ultimately returned. And Prabhupada said, my young householder couples, they went and they were successful. So it's not about changing your dress, how you wear your dhoti. It really is about the renunciation is an internal thing, and it's about seeing everything as an expansion of Krishna and engaging it in Krishna's service. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, said, my wife, my children, my home, it's all yours, Krishna. Let me engage it all, in devotional service. So, but going to this background, we have this Malecha Yavana background. In Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, to remain committed in a relationship, that's practically, that's like worth the austerity of some yogi, underwater for 10,000 years, just to live in a committed relationship in Kali Yuga, not just marriage, but even friendships or just any kind of relationship in Kali Yuga, to sustain and to grow in appreciation and respect for one another. This is huge austerity in Kali Yuga. We don't have to, Nadia Prabhu and I were speaking a little bit on the way up here about, unnecessarily adopting austerities and rules and regulations that may be there for, people like Rita Naraj said, some people never met a rule they didn't like, Some people are just like a hardwired. They like rules, and structure, and they got a day planner, and every moment is like, my brother-in-law is like that. He's got his day planner. It's like, okay, 9:15 this and that, and this. They got their whole day, and that's fine. Some people are wired a little differently, a little more spontaneous, and so different strokes for different folks. We were talking about, the tendency of impersonalism to want to impose, like, people should like what I like and they should not like what I don't like. And, why can't, this is a manifestation of impersonalism. Krishna likes variety. He's created every individual with a unique personality, and we all have different colors of the modes of nature, the conditioning, we're all very, very different. And Krishna is Rasa Raj. He's the king of rasa. He likes all sorts of varieties of loving exchange. So anyway, it was just something that we are talking a little bit about. So anyways, let's wrap it up there. Anyone have a comment or question? Yes, Prabhu.
That's a beautiful class, especially that first introduction. I've heard before that Pancharatrika also, there's 5, like our Diksha initiation is the Pancharatrika Marg, and the Bhagavat Marg is the path of hearing, and that Prabhupada told Vaikuntanath, who left his body in Tucson just a few months back, Vaikuntanath, as Prabhupada, he said, we're talking all about, how we want to distribute these books, and that, these books are going to change the world. Yet in these books, it says if one doesn't have initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, then they can't make any progress. So what if they get these books and they don't have a spiritual master? And Srila Prabhupada closed his eyes, and Prabhupada said, just by reading my books, they're initiated. And so how are we supposed to interpret that? And I've talked to different devotees, and what we've kind of concluded is that the Bhagavatam Marg initiation is the process of being initiated into the chanting of Hare Krishna and the process of hearing Bhagavat Katha. So by that, anybody who first introduces us or first we hear from, that's also Guru. That's an initiation of a sort, a beginning. But the Pancharatric initiation, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta separated into two, involves 5 different aspects. One gets a name, one gets tilak, one gets a thread, and then one gets a mantra. And there's another one. There's 5 different angas to that type of initiation. So it's just something that I think devotees should be clear on, that, we're following these 2 paths. The other thing I wanted to share, and also Lord Chaitanya, he wasn't, having a big fire yagya and giving beads. He was saying, now go and chant Hare Krishna. And in the same way, Maharaj Parikshit didn't, he had no reformatory processes, it's described. He had no reformatory processes. He just heard from Shukadev Goswami, and that process liberated him. So Prabhupada also said, of the 2, Bhagavat Marga is more important. If we had to give up one, we always hear and chant. And then I also wanted to share that, just to corroborate that in my life, once I started worshiping the deities, I do 3 days of worship, and then once Giriraj came to me, that changed my entire life in terms of my japa, my regulation, my enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. It was like a life-changing experience for me. It almost feels like my Krishna consciousness didn't begin until Giriraj came. So it's very real, this power of worshiping the deity and how he regulates you and gives you that inspiration. So what a shame.
Hi. Testimonials. How about you, Lalita Priya? You have realization about deity worship?
Yeah, I mean, I started deity worship pretty early, before I was even initiated. Someone had given me a shalagram, and then I got special permission to take care of him, and really, I mean, what Kirtaneshwara Prabhu says is so true. It's just so amazing how it keeps you regulated. It's like having a child. You might be feeling tired, or you don't want to do certain things, but your child needs to eat, your child needs to get a bath, your child needs to get dressed, and so you do those things anyway. And then in that doing that service, it kind of breaks you out of your funk that you might have been in, and so it's I found it to be very much the same way with deity worship, and it really helps to kind of build a real personal relationship with Krishna, because you're serving him. And I think it was Jivananda Prabhu that said, isn't it great, because I was talking about how wonderful deity worship is, and he said, yeah, isn't it great that, God's just there, like helpless, like, oh, I need to be dressed, oh, I can't do anything, you have to do it for me. And so it's just a really nice way to build that personal relationship. And then also when I think when you were reading it, or the Mataji, she said something about or I don't know who said it, but anyway, said something about how worshiping the deity, really helps you kind of be thinking all the time of Krishna. And I find this to be true. When I'm walking about my day and I see flowers, I immediately think of my deities, immediately. Whereas, that never happened in the past. I generally wouldn't think about anything, or maybe I'd think, oh, that's a pretty flower, but I wouldn't think of anything spiritual, And so now whenever I see flowers, I think, oh, that would be nice to get that for my deity, Or when I'm in the store and I see, some really nice, nuts, I usually give my deity dried fruits and nuts, because I don't really have cooking facilities in my room. And so when I see those things, I immediately think of my deity. And
You immediately steal them.
yeah, and I steal them. Yes, don't tell the police, please. But I do steal flowers a lot from people's yards and trees and things. And so in that way, I'm kind of thinking about Krishna so much more throughout the day than I would be otherwise. And then also, if I'm out somewhere, and I think, oh gosh, I better get home in time so I can put my deities to bed. Or when I'm planning a trip, I'm thinking, oh, I have to make so many arrangements to make sure that either I can bring my deities with me or that they are taken care of. And so in this way, it's like having a child, but like so much more. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was some, I don't know, it's an exercise some school teacher had told the children to like bring a doll or something. They had to carry the doll around all day or something. Like maybe, sort of get an idea of what it means that, like you got to have this. So, yeah, we're trying to develop our affection for Krishna, and as you're saying, when I see a flower, I mean, Prabhupada often gave the example, just like a boy is thinking, oh, let me pick this flower for my girlfriend or whatever. Like we're practicing falling in love with Krishna. I mean, we are by nature lovers of Krishna, but because of the conditioning, the thick coverings of our heart. So sadhana means to practice, who we really are. It's not unnatural for us to love Krishna. It is our constitutional position, and we're simply, Prabhupada gives the example of nectar devotion. The ability to walk is innate in a child. If there wasn't that innate ability, you couldn't practice walking. It wouldn't, but by practicing walking, that innate walking ability manifests. So our innate love for Krishna will manifest when we practice loving Krishna. And we were talking with the devotees in the Zoom call yesterday, and I mentioned when Ranath Maharaj was asked, how did you develop these good qualities? Well, how do you develop anything? You got to practice, So it's not, we can say, oh, somebody really got the mercy or something. And Prabhupada said, my mercy is available to everyone. You took advantage of it. Like the rain is falling down indiscriminately on the water, on the land, or this or that. But if you stay inside the house, then you're not going to, or the sunshine, same example. So Krishna's mercy is fully available to anyone. He's impartial in distributing his mercy, but it appears that Krishna is partial to his devotees. But Prabhupada writes in that purport in the Bhagavad Gita 9:29 that it may appear, like Krishna says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also in them. And Prabhupada said, that's just natural. When someone wants to reciprocate with you, it's natural that it appears that you're giving more attention, but it's coming from the devotee's interest in their relationship with Krishna. So Krishna's naturally reciprocating with them, but Krishna's not partial. He's willing to reciprocate with anybody, but someone who's really dialing in that desire, focusing that, no, this is what I want. I only want Krishna, nothing else. Then naturally, the devotees who are, that's unalloyed devotional service. They have no other desire. They want Krishna exclusively. And how many verses? I mean, there's just countless verses talking about that exclusive focus, in wanting to have a relationship with Krishna. And yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I wanted to say also just how ecstatic deity worship can be. Like, some of the best times I've had were dressing Gornitai and listening to Chaitanya Bhagavat at the same time, and like hearing these pastimes where they're doing somewhat like kind of mischievous things, and then I'm addressing Lord Chaitanya, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, did you really you did that, and it's just such an ecstatic time, to I can't really describe it, but it's just really amazing, So.
You can be totally absorbed in a preaching mood doing deity worship, I think. Let me decorate the deity so beautifully so that when the devotees who are going out to preach, they will be so attracted to Krishna, they will be enlivened to go out and preach. The pujari can be very deeply in a mode of sankirtan, preaching. It's holistic. Everybody just has a different. You got a quarterback, you got a tight end, you got linebackers. Everybody's just playing a different role, but the whole thing is get that ball over the goal line. We want to attract people to Krishna consciousness, and deity worship is so important. Nadia, Prabhu, yeah.
Sure. Thank you for another nice talk. Thank you. Just for a few quick couple of things I was thinking of. One, you made me think of how Shyam Prabhu once, I think maybe we were in Bisbee, and I was kind of thinking of like Krishna says to not bother those who don't, who just don't want to be bothered. And so in that way, like Shyam was saying, like he was telling me it's like awkward for Krishna, he said, actually, in the way, like if we're trying to force Krishna like directly on somebody who's not like ready for it, and I thought that was a nice like other end of the spectrum from what you were just mentioning of like Krishna being a person, like it's natural for him to want to reciprocate when somebody, is showing their attention